walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. This is Mr. Romney Wordsworth. In his last 48 hours on Earth, he's a citizen of the state, but will soon have to be eliminated. Because he is built out of flesh, and because he has a mind.
You've been under investigation, Mr. Wordsworth, for the mandatory period of 1 year and 11 months. You're found to be obsolete. The purpose of this hearing is to make a finding in the matter and make a sentence accordingly. Do you understand that, Mr. Wordsworth? Your occupation, Mr. Wordsworth?
A librarian.
A librarian. Having to do with books.
Yes, sir. Books.
Since there are no more books, Mr. Wordsworth, there are no more libraries. The field investigators in your sector have classified you as obsolete. Your rights are as follows, Mr. Wordsworth. You are to be liquidated within a period of 48 hours. You are obsolete, Mr. Wordsworth.
A lie. No man is obsolete.
You have no function, Mr. Wordsworth. You're an anachronism, like a ghost from another time.
I am nothing more than a reminder to you that you cannot destroy truth by burning pages.
You're a bug, Mr. Wordsworth, a crawling insect, an ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Delusions, Mr. Wordsworth. Delusions that you inject into your veins with printer's ink. The narcotics that you call literature, poetry, essays of all kind, all of it an opiate. You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
I don't care. I tell you, I don't care. I'm a human being. I exist. And if I speak one thought aloud, that thought lives, even after I'm shoveled into my grave.
The Chancellor, the late Chancellor, was only partly correct. He was obsolete. But so is the state, the entity he worshipped. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete.
Hallo allemaal, daar zijn we er weer, RHTV Live. En ja, we geven natuurlijk geschiedenis en ook wel de huidige stand van zaken, maar we blikken even terug. We kijken naar geschiedenis en we halen ook nog even wat psychologie erbij en zoiets. Maar eerst gaan we even kijken naar de kaart waar we vandaan streamen. De kijkers die weten dat inmiddels wel. We streamen vanuit het mooie Maastricht. Ja. So hello to you all from the south of the Netherlands. We're going to look back on history, on what happened during history, right? And we're also going to have some psychology. Ja. Dus dat ligt op tafel. Geschiedenis en een beetje psychologie. Ik heb het vaak tijdens de corona-lockdown gehad. Heb ik een filmpje laten zien dat we in een massapsychose zitten. Ja. En ik verzin het niet. Dat is echt een term, massapsychose. En ja, we gaan zo even kijken hoe er nou precies ontstaat, zo'n massapsychose. Mass psychosis, how an entire population becomes mentally ill.
This after-school presentation was written and narrated by Academy of Ideas. Check out their YouTube channel for more of their videos. The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. According to the psychologist Carl Jung, the greatest threat to civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wolf to man. In Civilization in Transition, Jung states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism, and our wolf-like tendencies come most prominently into play at those times of history when mental illness becomes the norm rather than the exception in a society, a situation which Jung termed a psychic epidemic. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious, he writes, that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. In this video, we are going to explore the most dangerous of all psychic epidemics, the mass psychosis. A mass psychosis is an epidemic of madness, and it occurs when a large portion of a society loses touch with reality and descends into delusions. Such a phenomenon is not a thing of fiction. Two examples of mass psychoses are the American and European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries, and the rise of totalitarianism in the 20th century. During the witch hunts, thousands of individuals, mostly women, were killed, not for any crimes they committed, but because they became the scapegoats of societies gone mad. In some Swiss villages, writes Francis Hill, there were scarcely any women left alive after the frenzy had finally burned itself out. When a mass psychosis occurs, the results are devastating. Jung studied this phenomenon and wrote that the individuals who make up the infected society become morally and spiritually inferior. They sink unconsciously to an inferior intellectual level. They become more unreasonable, irresponsible, emotional, erratic, and unreliable, and worst of all, crimes the individual alone could never stand are freely committed by the group smitten by madness. What makes matters worse is that those suffering from a mass psychosis are unaware of what is occurring. For just as an individual gone mad cannot step out of his mind to observe the errors in his ways, so too there is no Archimedean point from which those living through a mass psychosis can observe their collective madness. But what causes a mass psychosis? To answer this question, we must first explore what drives an individual mad. While there are many potential triggers of madness, such as an excessive use of drugs or alcohol, brain injuries, and other illnesses, these physical causes will not concern us here. Our concern is with psychological, or what are called psychogenic triggers, as these are the most common culprits of the mass psychosis. The most prevalent psychogenic cause of a psychosis is a flood of negative emotions, such as fear or anxiety, that drives an individual into a state of panic. When in a state of panic, an individual will naturally seek relief, as it is too mentally and physically draining to subsist in this hyper-emotional state. While escaping from the state of panic can be accomplished through adaptive means, such as facing up to and defeating the fear-generating threat, another way to escape is to undergo a psychotic break. A psychotic break is not a descent into a state of greater disorder, as many believe, but a reordering of one's experiential world, which blends fact and fiction, or delusions and reality, in a way that helps end the feelings of panic. Silvano Arrietty, one of the 20th century's foremost authorities on schizophrenia, explains the psychogenic steps that lead to madness. Firstly, there is the phase of panic, when the patient starts to perceive things in a different way, is frightened on account of it, appears confused, and does not know how to explain the strange things that are happening. The next step is what Arrietty calls a phase of psychotic insight, whereby an individual succeeds in putting things together by devising a pathological way of seeing reality which allows him to explain his abnormal experiences. The phenomenon is called insight because the patient finally sees meaning and relations in his experiences. But the insight is psychotic because it is based on delusions, not on adaptive and life-promoting ways of relating to whatever threats precipitated the panic. The delusions, in other words, allow the panic-stricken individual to escape from the flood of negative emotions, but at the cost of losing touch with reality, and for this reason, Arrietty says that a psychotic break can be viewed as an abnormal way of dealing with an extreme state of anxiety. If a panic-triggering flood of negative emotions...
Well, we are in a state of anxiety, you know. We worden bang gemaakt. 24 uur lang worden we gepropageerd. Oh, Rusland is fout. Rusland, straks valt Rusland Europa aan. En echt serieus. Zijn de mensen wel bewust dat ook Rusland een geschiedenis heeft? Ja, we gaan zo even kijken naar de geschiedenis van Rusland. Ja, we moeten een tijdsperiode gaan pakken. Dus ja, 1762, zo rond die tijd, had je dus Peter III. In Rusland was een oorlog tegen de Pruisen, Duitsland en Polen. Er had een eigen staat, de Pruisen. En Peter III die was dan Pruisen gezind. En die was getrouwd met Catharina. En ja, Catharina koos toch voor Rusland. En heel erg interessant stuk geschiedenis. Maar we gaan eerst even dit afkijken. So for the English viewers, we're gonna watch some Russian history, right, after this year. Very interesting this.
In a weak and vulnerable individual can trigger a psychotic break, then a mass psychosis can result when a population of weak and vulnerable individuals is driven into a state of panic by threats real, imagined, or fabricated. But as delusions can take many forms, and as madness can manifest in countless ways, the specific manner in which a mass psychosis unfolds will differ based on the historical and cultural context of the infected society. But in the modern era, it is the mass psychosis of totalitarianism that appears to be the greatest threat. Totalitarianism, writes Arthur Versluis, is the modern phenomenon of total centralized state power, coupled with the obliteration of individual human rights. In the totalized state, there are those in power, and there are the objectified masses, the victims.
That is the state that we are in. Corporatism. Corporatisme. Zoek het op, corporatisme. Dat betekent dat een industrieel entiteit meer macht heeft dan het parlement. Het parlement moet daar naar luisteren. Nou, wat hebben we gezien? Rutte wou een bepaalde belasting afschaffen. Weet u nog? Nee, Unilever belt en dat doen we niet aan de markt. Snap je? Corporatisme, daar zitten we in. We are in corporatism, right? The corporations have more to say than the people in power. We see that on Twitter and other social platforms, right? Speaking of that, there are new rules and regulations on YouTube, and we're also going to look at that. Ja, dus erg interessant om dit te gaan bekijken. Massapsychose. Ik heb al lang genoeg afgedraaid. Er ligt nog meer op tafel. Zoals democratie. Democratie. Wat was het ook alweer? Hè? Ja, er was een afweging tussen de macht van de bevolking en filosofen die dus verder gingen denken en zoiets. Daar gaan we ook straks naar kijken. En eerst gaan we een stukje Russische geschiedenis bekijken. Ja, zoals ik al zei, Peter III, vrouw Catharina, die dan tegen de Pruisen was. En die heeft Peter III om laten leggen. Ja. Dus we gaan zo een stukje bekijken. Hier, Peter III, die was eensgezind met de Pruisen. Dat staat ook op de kaart. Daartussen heb je Pools-Litouweense Rijk. Dat is zeg maar Duitsland eigenlijk, het noorden van Duitsland. Ja, we gaan even hier naar kijken.
Peter's actions angered many army officers, and he'd always been despised by his German wife Catherine. Together they deposed Peter III, who died a week later in suspicious circumstances. His wife Catherine became Empress of Russia. Her reign would be remembered as one of Russia's most glorious. In the early 1700s, Peter the Great's reforms put Russia on the path to becoming a great European power. But it was his grandson's German wife, Catherine, who deposed her husband to become Empress of Russia, who oversaw the completion of that transformation. Like Peter, she too would be remembered as the Great. Catherine was a student and admirer of the French Enlightenment, and even corresponded with the French philosopher Voltaire. She reigned as an enlightened autocrat. Her power was unchecked, but she pursued ideals of reason, tolerance, and progress. Catherine became a great patron of the arts and learning. Schools and colleges were built. The Bolshoi Theatre was founded, as well as the Imperial Academy of Fine Arts, while her own magnificent collection of artwork now forms the basis of the world-famous Hermitage Museum. Catherine encouraged Europeans to move to Russia to share their expertise, and helped German migrants to settle in the Volga region, where they became known as Volga Germans. Their communities survived nearly 200 years, until, on Stalin's orders, they were deported east at the start of World War II. Catherine's reign also saw enormous territorial expansion. In the south, Russia defeated the Ottoman Empire, winning new lands and the fortresses of Azov and Kerch. But then Catherine faced a major peasant revolt, led by the renegade Cossack Yemelyan Pugachev. The rebels took many fortresses and towns and stormed the city of Kazan before they were finally defeated by the Russian army. Catherine then forcibly incorporated the Zaporozhian Cossacks into the Russian Empire and annexed the Crimean Khanate, a thorn in Russia's side for 300 years. Russia's new lands in the south were named Novorussia, New Russia. Sparsely populated, they were settled by Russian colonists under the supervision of Prince Potemkin, Catherine's advisor and lover. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, exhausted by war and at the mercy of its neighbors, was carved up in a series of partitions, with Russia taking the lion's share. Poland did not re-emerge as an independent nation until 1918. Russia inherited a large Jewish population from Poland, who Catherine decreed could live only in the so-called Pale of Settlement, and were excluded from most cities. In France, the French Revolution led to the execution of King Louis XVI. Catherine was horrified, and in the last years of her reign, completely turned her back on the liberal idealism of her youth. 3 years later, Catherine died, ending one of the most glorious reigns in Russian history. She was succeeded by her son, Paul, a man obsessed by military discipline and detail, and opposed to all his mother's works.
That was a year off.
Russia joined the coalition of European powers, fighting revolutionary France. Marshal Suvorov, one of Russia's greatest military commanders, won a series of victories against the French in northern Italy. But the wider war was a failure. Meanwhile, Paul's reforms had alienated Russia's army and nobility, and he was murdered in a palace coup. He was succeeded by his 23-year-old son Alexander, who shared his grandmother Catherine's vision for a more modern Russian state.
We know this guy, Alexander I. We know him. Yep. At least, if you like your history. He fought against Napoleon. Ja, Napoleon, die heeft zich in Frankrijk veel terrein gewonnen. Toen hij generaal was in Italië en elders. En ja, ze gingen samenwerken, Frankrijk en Rusland. Die hadden een akkoord in Tilsit. Hadden een akkoord bereikt. En ja, Rusland hield zich toch niet echt aan het akkoord. Heeft toch handel gedaan met Engeland, Groot-Brittannië. En ja, Napoleon was woest. Die was woest. Die had in 1812, ging die Rusland aanvallen. Heel veel mensen dood. De Battle of Borodino kennen we ook wel. Ook vaak laten zien bij RHTVLive. Ja, dus de slag om Borodino. Ja, dat is hevig geweest. We kennen het ook wel van Tolstoy, War and Peace. Die heeft er ook een heel roman over geschreven. Van die Russische nobelen die dan Moskou moesten verlaten en zoiets. Dan heb je eentje die achterblijft, die gaat naar Borodino toe. En die gaat dan daar zo proberen mee te vechten. En heel verhaal. Lees het boek of bekijk de serie. Weet je wat, ik zal ook even een stukje laten zien. War and Peace. Full movie. Daar, War and Peace. Het is in 3 delen. Erg interessant. En hier deel 1, deel 2, deel 3 zal er ook wel ergens tussen zitten. Of ja, het kan ook in 2 delen zijn. Ik denk dat deze in 2 delen is. Dit is de Russische variant. Ja, Mosfilm. Russische uitgeverij. Erg interessant. En ja, we laten een stukje zien. So, we're going to show you guys the Battle of Borodino. Right, when Napoleon entered Russia and tried to, settle an agreement. So.
Если кто сделает то же, то я плачу 100 империалов, понимаете?
Well, drinks a whole bottle.
Dus dat zijn de aristocraten. En ja, die hebben een feest en zoiets. En die zijn nog niet bewust dat Napoleon eraan komt. En ja, bekijk de film, zou ik zeggen. Een erg goede film. We gaan kijken of we beelden hebben van de veldslagen. Dat is natuurlijk interessant. Dat is volgens mij Napoleon die dus door het Russische drek rijdt. Nou, hij had echt een groot leger hoor. Heel Europa kwam eigenlijk zo'n beetje bij elkaar, maar wel noodgedwongen. En hij had echt een heel groot leger. En het duurde echt een aantal dagen voordat hij in Rusland aankwam. Ja. Dus we lieten net War and Peace zien van Tolstoy. Erg interessant. Ja, en ja. Dankzij Napoleon is er ook de Duchy van Warschau gemaakt. Een bepaald gebied. Dus erg interessant om dat allemaal te gaan bekijken. Ja. Dus we gaan ook even kijken naar onze favoriete filosoof, namelijk Socrates. Ja, die was toch niet zo'n heel groot fan van democratie. Ja. Dan even hier naar kijken. Zo. Zoals ik al zei, democratie is een balans tussen filosofie en de machthebbenden. En ja, eigenlijk is de filosofie gewoon weggehaald. We gaan even hier naar kijken. Wat Socrates vindt van democratie. Ja. Volgens mij wordt zelfs Plato erbij gehaald. Plato's Republiek.
We're used to thinking very highly of democracy, and by extension of ancient Athens, the civilization that gave rise to it. The Parthenon has become almost a byword for democratic values, which is why so many leaders of democracies like to be photographed there. It's therefore very striking to discover that one of ancient Greece's greatest achievements, philosophy, was highly suspicious of its other achievement, democracy. The founding father of Greek philosophy, Socrates, is portrayed in the dialogues of Plato as hugely pessimistic about the whole business of democracy. In Book 6 of the Republic, Plato describes Socrates falling into conversation with a character called Adimantus and trying to get him to see the flaws of democracy by comparing a society to a ship. If you were heading out on a journey by sea, asks Socrates, who would you ideally want deciding who was in charge of the vessel? Just anyone, or people educated in the rules and demands of seafaring? The latter, of course, says Adimantus. So why then, responds Socrates, do we keep thinking that any old person should be fit to judge who should be the ruler of a country? Socrates' point is that voting in an election is a skill, not a random intuition. And like any skill, it needs to be taught systematically to people. Letting the citizenry vote without an education is as irresponsible as putting them in charge of a trireme sailing to Samos in a storm. Socrates was to have first-hand catastrophic experience of the foolishness of voters. In 399 BC, the philosopher was put on trial on trumped-up charges of corrupting the youth of Athens. A jury of 500 Athenians was invited to weigh up the case and decided by a narrow margin that the philosopher was guilty. He was put to death by hemlock in a process which is, for thinking people, every bit as tragic as Jesus' condemnation has been for Christians. Crucially, Socrates was not elitist in the normal sense. He didn't believe that a narrow few should only ever vote. He did, however, insist that only those who had thought about issues rationally and deeply should be let near a vote. We have forgotten this distinction between an intellectual democracy and a democracy by birthright. We have given the vote to all without connecting it to wisdom. And Socrates knew exactly where that would lead, to a system the Greeks feared above all, demagoguery. Ancient Athens had painful experience of demagogues. For example, the louche figure of Alcibiades, a rich, charismatic, smooth-talking, wealthy man who eroded basic freedoms and helped to push Athens to its disastrous military adventures in Sicily. Socrates knew how easily people seeking election could exploit our desire for easy answers. He asked us to imagine an election debate between two candidates, one who was like a doctor and the other who was like a sweet shop owner. The sweet shop owner would say of his rival, "Look, this person here has worked many evils on you. He hurts you, gives you bitter potions, and tells you not to eat and drink whatever you like. He'll never serve you feasts of many and varied pleasant things like I will." Socrates asks us to consider the...
Who would you vote for? Op wie zou jij gaan stemmen? Op de dokter die zegt van nou, we moeten toch drastische ingrepen doen en zoiets. Of degene die jouw snoep verkoopt, €1000 belooft en belooft 130 km per uur te kunnen rijden op de snelweg en zoiets allemaal. Op wie zou jij gaan stemmen? So who would you vote for? For the doctor who says, you know, we got a lot of stuff to do here. We got to reform and stuff like that. Or for the candy shop owner who sells sweet candy and says, here you go, here you have some ice cream. You know, vote for me.
Audience's response. Do you think the doctor would be able to reply effectively? The true answer, I cause you trouble and go against your desires in order to help you, would cause an uproar among the voters, don't you think? We have forgotten all about Socrates' salient warnings against democracy. We have preferred to think of democracy as an unambiguous good rather than as something that is only ever as effective as the education system that surrounds it. As a result, we have elected many sweet shop owners and very few doctors.
And this is why the world is screwed up. You know, we used to be ruled by kings and emperors and stuff like that. No, we're not. You know, it's corporatism. De corporatie heeft meer voor het zeggen dan de mensen in de politiek. Ja, en het wordt allemaal achter de gesloten deuren worden allerlei contracten gemaakt en noem het allemaal maar op. We hebben het aan jullie laten zien, de World Economic Forum, echt honderden politieagenten, het leger werd zelfs ingezet en zoiets om die mensen te gaan beschermen. Die mensen waar we dus niet op gestemd hebben, mensen van industrie en zoiets, ja, het is echt belachelijk. Echt gewoon heel, heel erg triest. Ja, maar ja, door zulke leiders worden wij geregeerd. Ja. So, very sad to see that the state of the world is led by sweet shop owners, basically, right? Who are run by shadow organizations like the World Economic Forum and stuff like that. You know, many cops, even the army was put in at the World Economic Forum to protect these people of industry. Very sad to see what's happening around the world. But we speak out. We speak out. Even though there are rules and regulations You know, you're not allowed to swear anymore. Nope, that is a big no-no. Ja, dus daar gaan we ook even naar kijken. Je mag niet meer vloeken op YouTube. Ja, dan heb ik natuurlijk Canadese vrienden. Die Vic BC Live, kom ik soms ook wel eens op panel. Die heeft het dus over de rules and regulations die YouTube nou bepaald heeft. Al vanaf november eigenlijk. En met terugwerkende kracht wordt er natuurlijk gekeken naar al die filmpjes. Of je ooit gevloekt hebt. En hou je filmpje weg hoor. You were obsolete. Well, maybe not. We gaan even hier naar kijken.
If you don't know his first name, that's who he's talking about.
And to the topic of playing music and stuff, you're right. Like the Eagles or AC/DC, Pink Floyd are on the top. But that's the thing with YouTube. First of all, they can't get everybody, and they are doing it randomly. So we have hours and hours on Nathan's channel playing music with everything, and no black screen at all. And sometimes you play in 50 years old or 60 years old song which has no copyright, and they flag you for that. So that makes completely no sense. And what Tulsa says is exactly right. They make their own rules and they do whatever they want. They can change their rules. They have, this has nothing to do with any judge or whatsoever. They make the rules and they do whatever they want to, and they can't do anything against it.
And everybody that is putting videos, or doing lives or doing whatever they're doing on YouTube, you're doing it on exactly that. You're doing it on YouTube. You're using their platform, and they can come in and come down on you at any point, and they've proven that over the last couple weeks.
Last couple weeks for sure. We've been seeing it a lot, and I am not one of these people that say, don't monetize and everything else because YouTube takes the money. That's fine. We're using their platform. It's a business. They need to make money, and that's fine. However, they got to be clear on what the rules are in order for us to follow the rules. How can you follow them if they're not clear?
Real quick here, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a file from November. Now, this is a Google. Whoops. Hang on.
Well, they do write their terms and conditions very vaguely.
Yeah.
Which gives them the right to interpret their rules as they see, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's the problem.
So here we go, guys. Can I make that bigger? Yeah, a little bit. So this is actually from November, and November 2022, and to include, and it says we've updated our guidelines to include both clear language, specific guideline changes, and changes to add suitabilities. See below for impacted guidelines, as well as non-exhaustive examples of what is changing. Adult content, we all kind of know the adult content, not really, that sexuality, blah blah blah. That's kind of sensitive events, inappropriate language though. This one here, and this particular line, this was back in November. Profanities used after the first 8 seconds may receive ad revenue. Our position on not monetizing content with profanity throughout or compromising the majority of the video is not changing. That particular line, and basically this whole paragraph, that is one of the things that changed over the last couple weeks. This came out in November. They started enforcing it over the last couple weeks. And there's multiple people that are, actually suffering from this now.
From videos that were from a year ago.
Or the one guy I was reading about, he was, it was 10 years ago. Like
a video from 10 years ago En je ban him? Oh my god, man. Ja, dit gebeurt. Dus
videos that he's had forever. So now all of a sudden you've got swearing, and even if it's an accidental swear or, the S word or something like that, they're going back on it, and now there's nothing, they're not getting any warning. They
Zonder waarschuwing gewoon een filmpje weggehaald. Ja. Dat kennen we ook wel bij RHTVLive. Zo hebben we dus ook een filmpje gepost. Waar Project Veritas. Hadden we het daarover. En nee. YouTube haalt het weg hoor. Ja. De verboden uitzending nog wel te volgen op Facebook. Maar het is erg triest dat men denkt over je te kunnen regeren. Zoiets van, ja, wij hebben hier de macht. Het is niet jouw kanaal. Nee, wij hebben hier de macht. We have the power. It's not your channel. We have the power. You have to listen to us. Yeah, right. Well, I'm abiding by your guidelines, right? And just showing some videos of, all sorts of stuff that I put on table. And we like to look at history, right? And in Europe, there is a revolution brewing. Yep. So we're just giving the news here, right? We know that there is a war in Ukraine. We just showed you a bit of history of Russia, right? And there is a revolution brewing. The people in France say, no, we don't want the pension age, up the ante from 50 to 52, right? So 2 years more of work, and it's amazing. People of France, they stand up, right? And that's what we don't do in the Netherlands. Nope. Nou, alhoewel, we hebben wel een demonstratie gehad in Amsterdam. We had a demonstration in Amsterdam today against the CBDC. And we're also going to show you guys that. Ja, dat zoeken we even op. Even kijken. Zo. Wacht even hoor. Zo. Demonstratie op de Dam. Ja. En we gaan even naar beelden kijken van wat daar op de Dam allemaal afspeelde. En elders in Amsterdam. So we're going to watch some images from Amsterdam. A very big demonstration against the CBDC, right? Central banking digital currency. We don't want digital money. And we're going to take a look at this here.
Is dat het allemaal getraceerbaar gaat worden, ook met de CO2-budgetten. Dus je hebt nu al de persoonlijke bonuskaart. Ja, dan ziet al de winkel gewoon volledig wat jij hebt gekocht. Nou, dan kan je op zich meteen heel makkelijk taxen overheen zetten. Wordt dat extra betalen voor vlees? Of wordt het een bepaald plafond, net zoals energieplafond, wat je dan gaat krijgen? Dus ja, dat vind ik heel griezelig. En ook gewoon, ja, ik heb een grote kinderwens voor mijn kinderen laten. Daar maak ik me zorgen om. Ja. Van wat voor wereld gaan zij opgroeien waar gewoon geen anonimiteit meer is. Ja. dat het broodje bij de bakker, dat wordt al geregistreerd. Nou, dat vind ik belachelijk.
Ja, het zit gekoppeld aan een digitale identiteit.
Ja.
Op wat voor manier zou dat dan ook je persoonlijke rechten kunnen benadelen volgens jou?
Nou, dat is heel simpel. Want als je bijvoorbeeld, kijk alleen aan wat we hebben gehad met quarantaine. Stel je voor, je bent ziek, om wat dan ook, medisch dossier. En ze blokkeren dan jouw pinpas, omdat je dan eigenlijk in quarantaine zou moeten zitten. Kan ook voor andere ziekten zijn, hè. En dan wil jij toch gaan winkelen. Voorheen kon je dan bijvoorbeeld je pinpas aan iemand anders meegeven, hè, of cashgeld. Maar als het straks allemaal wegens veiligheid mag dat alleen maar jouw eigen pas zijn. Ja, dan kan je dus, sta je bij de kassa, wordt je pas geblokkeerd. Want jij zou eigenlijk in quarantaine moeten zitten. Nou ja, dat soort voorwaardelijke randzaken komen dan aan jouw eigen uitgavenpatronen, bijvoorbeeld.
Ja. En heb jij het daarover met je omgeving? Hoe wordt daar dan naar gekeken?
Ja, ik heb wel een paar vrienden die het ook snappen, dus dat is heel fijn. Ik merk wel dat je daar gewoon steeds meer wel mee toetrekt. Zijn goede...
Kijk, met deze gast zou ik wel kunnen praten. Ja. Die snapt het totalitair gegeven. Ja. En het is gewoon heel erg triest dat de mensen die ons zogenaamd leiden, ja, het zijn echt klungels. Het zijn echt niks nutten. We laten zo even wat anders zien. So this was a demonstration in Amsterdam. Black Box was there, and he's asking a student about the CBDC and stuff like that. So, yeah, very interesting to watch. We gaan ook even kijken naar een andere korte filmpje. Pas op voor de Chinese ballonnen. Ja, pas op, hè, pas op. Ah, ik vind het zo grappig. Nog een keer. Moet je je voorstellen dat Biden dan zegt van, ja, er is helemaal niks aan de hand hoor met mij. Nee, ik kan gewoon de trap oplopen. Ik deed dat perfect. It's like, oh my god, man. Your president is demented and very, very, very corrupt. We still don't know what happened to Seth Rich, right? So, ja, we laten ook eventjes wat anders zien. Hè? Even kijken. The largest defense budget in history, a balloon. Even kijken hoor, waar was dat? Ah, hier, 1 voor 1 pakken we ze aan. Kijk hier, Kaag. Die zegt stem ze weg, bla 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 bla. En dan zeg ik gewoon tegen Kaag, er is geen stikstofprobleem. Er is geen klimaatprobleem. D66 doet zelf een uitsluiting. Laat leden van onze kabinet werken niet voor Nederland, maar voor schaduworganisaties zoals de WEF en Bilderberg. En zo confronteer je ze via Twitter in de hoop dat ze dat lezen. Maar goed, het mooiste komt nog. Hier. Jan Paternotte, ook weer van D66. Nederlanders op 1, laat me niet lachen. Terwijl wij het minimumloon verhoogden, de lerarensalarissen verbeteren en snel onafhankelijk worden van Poetins gas, deed Geert Wilders helemaal niet voor Nederland, behalve haat en twijfel zaaien. En dan zeg ik, laat me niet lachen, komt van J. Paternotte, een vertegenwoordiger van de Nederlandse bevolking, en die wil de Nederlander niet op 1 zetten. Triest hoeveel politici gezonken zijn dat ze het Nederlands belang niet op 1 zetten. Ga alsjeblieft naar Oekraïne, Jan, en blijf daar. Ja, zo doe je dat, zo confronteer je ze. En ja, Dat is ook een oorlogshitser, die Jan Paternotte. En zo zijn er nog heel veel andere. Hier, kijk, dit is ook interessant. De Verenigde Emiraten zitten als tussenpersoon tussen Rusland en Oekraïne als het gaat om uitwisselen van soldaten. 63 Russische soldaten voor 116 Oekraïense soldaten. 37 keer is er uitgewisseld dankzij de Emiraten. Eigenlijk zou Nederland een tussenpersoon moeten zijn, maar gekke Wopke wil liever jouw kinderen opofferen. Ja. Dus er is ook nog een ander, kijk, ook weer zo'n trend, een rok voor mannen, doe ik niet aan mee, nee. Dus vergeet dat maar. Kijk, Wopke Hoekstra heb ik dus deze gestuurd, de Eisenhower Farewell Address. Ja, we kijken naar geschiedenis en we weten dat geschiedenis zich herhaalt. Je kijkt naar Wopke Hoekstra die de dienstplicht in wil voeren en denk je hieraan. De vijand is niet Rusland, maar het militair-industrieel complex. Overal wel een vijand aan te wijzen, van Gaddafi tot Assad. Ja. Dus die gaan we ook zo afdraaien. Ja. Maar eerst gaan we een stukje verder terug de geschiedenis in. En gaan we kijken naar 1848. Ja, waarom zo ver terug, Rogier? Nou, je ziet het straks wel, hè. Kijk, hier. 1848, Europe's Year of Revolutions. Kwamen allerlei revoluties kwamen in Duitsland. De voormalige deelstaten die kwamen bij elkaar. Die hadden nationale identiteit en zo. En die wilden een eigen staat zijn en noem het allemaal op. En dan had je ook Polen die zich weerden tegen de Russen. We hebben het net gezien, de Pools-Litouweense Rijk, die werd ingenomen door Rusland. En er was verzet daartegen. En dat kwam ook eigenlijk allemaal uit Frankrijk. Dus 1848, erg interessant om te bekijken wat hier zo toen destijds gebeurde. We draaien even terug. Zo. Dan heb je een beetje een beter blik. Kijk, hier begint het dan met Napoleon. Die werd dan verslagen in Waterloo. Dankzij Engeland. Waterloo ligt in België. En dat was destijds nog onder Frans bewind. Dus Napoleon is verslagen en Europa komt bij elkaar om afspraken te maken voor een nieuwe Europa.
The shadow of Napoleon Bonaparte and the French Revolution still looms over Europe. The peace settlement of 1815 had been a triumph for reactionary forces. Europe's great powers, Britain, France, Austria, Prussia and Russia, were committed to working together to ensure no more revolutions. Radicalism and republicanism would not be allowed to disturb the peace of Europe again. Austrian Chancellor Prince Clemens von Metternich is regarded as the architect of this new conservative order. Some historians call it the Metternich system. And yet, across Europe, there are many for whom the ideals of the French Revolution remain not a nightmare, but an inspiration. Liberals seek personal freedoms and civil rights, such as equality before the law, protected by constitutions, a free press and regular elections. Nationalists share these aims with a desire in Italy and Germany for national unification, or in the multi-ethnic Austrian Empire for greater recognition, autonomy and respect for language. Poles continue to seek the restoration of an independent Poland. and have launched one bloody uprising against the Russians in 1830. Their cause is supported by liberals across Europe. In most countries, liberals and nationalists face draconian censorship laws, arrest by the secret police, and bans on political...
I'm sorry, I was speaking in Dutch. So we're looking at history, right? We just showed you the history of Russia and stuff like that. So you missed out on a lot. But we're talking about how history repeats itself, and most people are in a mass psychosis, right? So, yeah, that's basically all of the almost an hour in a nutshell, right? So we're going to take a look at this here, 1848, Europe's Year of Revolutions. En wat gebeurt er ook weer in 1848 in Nederland? Nou, de mensen die geschiedenis wel kennen, die weten dat bijvoorbeeld Thorbecke de constitutie voor Nederland heeft geschreven. Ja, komen we straks op. So in 1848, we had a politician, Thorbecke, who had made the Dutch constitution, and ever since we have a constitutional monarchy, right? So, we blijven doorkijken hier zo.
Parties and meetings. But there are always loopholes. In France, private banquets turn into political rallies. In Italy, scientific societies discuss politics, while gymnastic groups do the same in Germany. These liberal movements are dominated by the middle class, with their own local and national agendas, but also many shared values and aims. They are passionate, organized, and waiting for their opportunity. But it isn't just the middle classes that want change. By 1848, rising populations and food prices had created hunger, poverty, and social unrest across Europe. Low wages and hunger drive peasants to cities in increasing numbers, where they become cheap labor to feed the growing pace of industrialization. They live in slums and work long hours in dreadful conditions, if they can find work. Violent protests by workers and peasants are on the rise. Harvest failures and potato blight make a bad situation worse, with a deadly famine in Ireland and food riots across France. In the face of such crises, Europe's governments offer little support or hope of reform. When French Prime Minister François Guizot is challenged that only the richest 0.5% could vote in France, he merely replies, "Enrichissez-vous, get rich." In the winter of 1847-48, a sharp economic downturn throws thousands more out of work. The case for reform is more urgent than ever, but Europe's governments fail to act. The stage is set for a European revolution.
Now, we look at history, right? And basically, we're seeing the same thing as what's happening now in Europe. You know, it's really, really sad to see. We krijgen bericht van meneer Nixon. Even kijken wie dit is. I'll have to look into that, Mr. Nixon. Thank you for sharing. Anyway, so basically, Europe is in a crisis, right? We have Ukraine, where there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine because of the coup, right? We know in 2014 there was a coup in Kiev. Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt made a phone call. They knew that Ukraine was divided into two regions, basically, the East and the West, and the East is more Russian friendly than the West. Ze wisten daar vanaf, mensen, dat Oekraïne verdeeld is tussen het Westen en het Oosten. En het Oosten is meer Russisch gezind. En dat vallen ze dan aan, de Donbass. That is where they're attacking the Donbass, right? And very, very sad to see. But this is happening. And basically, the Netherlands is in hyperinflation, right? There's lots of gas in the North Sea, and the Netherlands says, we're not going to pump any gas over there. Nope. We're going to look for alternatives. Now, we sanctioned Moscow, and we got a lot of gas from Moscow, basically, until the pipeline was sabotaged. I wonder by whom. Ja. Dus dit gebeurt allemaal, mensen. Vroeger kregen we heel veel gas uit Rusland en zoiets. Ja, maar sinds de pijpleiding kapot is gemaakt, gesaboteerd, ja, zegt Nederland nee tegen Rusland. Eigenlijk al lang daarvoor. Lang voor de Oekraïne-oorlog. Want ja, wat zei Nederland ook weer over Syrië? What was the Netherlands doing in Syria? Well, we basically supported terrorist groups. 22 terrorist groups. Very, very sad to see. But Syria, Assad, dictator, right? Dictator, yeah, right. Very sad to see that the U.S. is still occupying Syria, in the north of Syria, where you have oil and gas fields and stuff. The U.S. is still occupying that. Ja. Maar wat doet Nederland? Nederland heeft zoiets van, nou, Assad, dat is een foute gast. Fout. Ja. Die gaat de principe van Thorbecke niet opvolgen. Nee. Wij steunen dus jihadisten. Ja, jihadisten. We were supporting jihadis in Syria. Right? I'm going to show you guys a Dutch article. Nederland gaf steun aan jihadisten in Syrië. So Netherlands gave support to jihadis in Syria. Right? There were two newspapers that did an investigation. And they found out the government was supporting these proxies to overthrow Syria, right? Between May 2015 and spring 2018, Netherlands supported 22 weaponized groups in Syria. They did not get any weapons, but they did get for 25 million euros cars, 313 in total, food, medication, communication devices, tents, uniforms, and training. We even gave them training to overthrow the Syrian government. Dat is heel erg triest. Ja, we hebben te maken met oorlogscriminelen. En ja, ik voel, I feel there's a revolution in the air. You know, with the hyperinflation going on in Europe, and basically Europe had three engines, right? Three engines that made Europe thrive, right? The EU. You had Germany, who's still a big player within the EU. You have France, and you had England, right? Well, England said, "Buy EU, buy," and they're out. They're out of the EU. So now you have a bloc with two opposing powers. Now, France and Germany, if you know some European history, they're not really allies. But still, they're in the European Union and they have to work together. Yeah, dus, and Germany is on default, right? Very, very sad to see. Many blackouts will come in Germany during the year, I guess, right? Because they have wind and solar energy now. The sun doesn't shine every day, So the Green Deal is devastating for Germany, and France is needing more money to support the Green Deal, and the people of France are like, nope, we don't want that. So, and going back to the revolution of 1848, it came from France, right? I believe it was Voltaire who wrote "The winds of change come from France," or something along those lines. Dus Frankrijk is in beweging, mensen. Al een hele tijd. En de wind van verandering komt uit Frankrijk, wat Europa betreft. En wie weet, misschien zeggen zij ook van, dag EU, bye EU, who knows? Who knows? They are benefiting from the other small countries within the EU. And the EU has many layers, right? Switzerland, for example, is in the Schengen Agreement, and that is not really the EU, They have their own currency and referendums and stuff like that, So that is the only free state within Europe, but still corrupt country. The BIS bank is there. So very, very, yeah. And of course, they have Davos, in Switzerland. So that is where the elite go, up in the mountains, and look below the valley and decide for us, Ja, wij weten het beter. Wij weten het beter. Vanaf de hoge Alpen. Ja, ja, wij weten het beter. Bij de World Economic Forum, vertrouw ons maar hoor, vertrouw ons. Hè? Ik dacht dat het een praatclubje was. Ah, nee. Het gaat niet om gebakje en koffie. Nee. Het gaat om de toekomst van de mensheid. Ja. So it's about the future of humanity that's being decided at the World Economic Forum and that other shadowy organizations such as the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and other stuff like that. So, and for the Americans and Canadians watching, you were warned, right? Because there is something called the North American Union. North American Union, there you go. They want to make one continent, basically, of America. Right? There you go. So they want to make one block of America, Canada, and Mexico, and the capital should be in Washington. Like we have within the European Union, we have the capital in Brussels, Belgium, right? This is how they try to control people and stuff like that. Very, very sad to see that we are being ruled by megalomaniacs. And that is, I'm not swearing. I'm not swearing. Hoe me inhouden. Yeah. The North American Union is a theoretical, economic, and political continental union of Canada, Mexico, and the United States, the three largest and most populous countries in North America. Now, if you look at South America, right, very fragmented and stuff, there was a meeting in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and a lot of Southern American countries went there. Kijken of we dat naar voren kunnen halen. De meeting daar zo in Buenos Aires. Even kijken hoor. South America meeting. There you go. Can't really find it. Here we have it. Wait. Latin America Conference 2022, right? Let's see if there's also 2023. Well, let's just take a look at this. This happened this year too. So this was last year.
By Michael Reed, but Michael Reed was not able to attend. So he'll be here virtually, so I will give him the floor. Michael Reed is a journalist from The Economist. He was an editor of the section of The Americas, The Economist. He's written 3 books. Forgotten Continent, about Latin America, another one about Brazil, and the third one will be published next year on Spain. The topic will be Spain.
Muchas gracias, Chris. Muchas gracias.
Chatham House. Comexi, thank you for this invitation to participate in this very interesting conference. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to attend personally because of my very tight agenda.
So this is what they do. Chatham House. Let's see if they got other clips here. Democracy in America, midterm elections. Yeah, right. So this is also a shadow lobby group, right? The Chatham House, and you know, it's weer een schaduworganisatie. En ja, volgens de Chatham House rules, volgens de regels, mag je niet over bepaalde dingen gaan praten, zoals ze dat bij Bilderberg doen en ook bij de World Economic Forum. Maar ja, dan krijg je natuurlijk tractie en dan gaan ze zoiets hebben van nou, we moeten toch wel eventjes openbaren. En dan krijg je zoiets, zo'n YouTube-kanaal als Chatham House, de schaduworganisatie. Het zijn allemaal zogenaamde denkers en zoiets. Het is, ja, dit is hoe het gaat, mensen. Dit is hoe het gaat. Een schaduwlobbygroep die ja, voor de rest van ons denkt. Ja. Maar ik ben het niet mee eens. Want de bevolking heeft zelf geen inbreng. So this is a shadow lobby group. And I disagree with that because the population has no say in it. Right? These are people sitting on a cloud and making all sorts of rules and regulations, and you know, very, very sad to see. But we are awake. We know what's going on. We know there's a mass psychosis going on, right? Let's see if we can pull up the South American meeting. Argentina. There you go. No. Let's see. South America Championship. Nope. It's here somewhere. Germany. No. Let's see if Al Jazeera has it. Ongeveer een week geleden of zo, zoiets. Als ik me goed herinner. Latin America corruption. Yeah, we know. We're looking at the world. Even kijken. A spy balloon. Do you believe it's a spy balloon? Well, yeah. It's not a UFO. It's not a UFO. It's basically identified by, you know, a spy balloon. I mean, come on. You guys got TikTok, CCP. Even kijken of we het kunnen vinden. Myanmar military rulers extend state of emergency by 6 months. We also talked about that, right? Myanmar, dat hebben we ook belicht. En zo zijn er zoveel dingen die je kan belichten. Iedereen kan dit doen. Everyone can do this, right? Just open your eyes and look at the world. Your Myanmar military coup, right? Children are suffering in Myanmar. And, you know, There's a lot happening in the world. Israel is also, going to the West Bank and having chaos over there. Very, very sad to see. There was an explosion in Pakistan. Sharif is dead, or what's his name? No, not Sharif. Protests. There's a lot to see. What we were searching for, the Venezuela meeting, is here somewhere. Japan, robots in workplaces. Yeah, we showed you guys that, right? Haiti protest, we showed you that. Gaza airstrikes. Yep. So it's a sad state of affairs we're in. And we can change the world. We can change the world if we are aware of what's happening. Now, one of my most favorite philosophers, Plato, had something to say about that. Even kijken of we het kunnen vinden. Here. Brazil-Argentina summit to focus to trade economic integration. So what we're seeing here is Brazil and Argentina. Basically, Brazil is almost self-functioning, and has a lot of income because of oil and other exports they have. And you have Argentina, a neighboring country, almost a neighbor, and Argentina is in debt. They're lending from the International Monetary Fund, who gives them a loan, and they have to pay it back. Ja. Dus Brazilië en Argentinië, het zijn bijna buurlanden. En economisch gezien gaat het in Brazilië iets beter. Want in Argentinië zijn ze bij de IMF. En daar gaan ze steeds van lenen. En zoiets. We gaan even hier naar kijken.
Among those countries.
Oh, dan moeten we natuurlijk wel een beetje terug gaan spoelen. We have to go back. There we go. There we go. We have Lula and the Argentinian president, right? I forgot his name.
For decades, new Brazilian presidents made Argentina their first foreign trip. Jair Bolsonaro rejected that tradition, but his successor, Lula da Silva, wants to go back to the old ways and improve relations between South America's giants.
We have a history that united us. We have cultural things in common. We have to improve healthcare. We have to organize our energy developments. We have spoken about the benefit of Brazilian electricity. Dear Lula, this is your home.
Da Silva and Fernandes also discussed the possibility of a common currency to promote bilateral trade and reduce reliance on the US dollar.
Did you guys hear that? A common currency, right? The same thing was in Europe, right? We want a common currency. So I just showed you guys the North American Union, and that's what's on the table over there. But this is South America, and we see the consolidation of power between two countries, Brazil and Argentina, and they want one currency, right? That's also on their table. Very, very sad to see.
Our finance ministers are currently working each with his own economic team to make us a proposal for foreign trade and transactions between the two countries that is done in a common currency to be built after much debate and many meetings.
President Lula da Silva also came to Argentina to participate in a summit by a regional bloc of Latin American and Caribbean nations. Brazil left this bloc back in 2019 during the government of former President Jair Bolsonaro because of the presence of Cuba and Venezuela. The presence of Lula in this summit also shows that he's prioritizing rebuilding the relationship with its Latin American neighbors. Among those countries was Venezuela. President Nicolás Maduro was also expected in Buenos Aires, but suspended the trip. The Venezuelan government said there was a plan of aggression against their leader. On Sunday, Venezuelans living in Buenos Aires said Argentina should not welcome Nicolás Maduro. Maria de Los Ángeles Mosquera left Venezuela 5 years ago. Her daughter had cancer, and there were no medicines to treat her.
How can it be that a democratic country will receive a tyrant, a person that's destroyed a country and has allied itself with Iranians and Russians? I feel horrible this is happening.
Brazil and over 30 other countries will be part of the summit happening in Buenos Aires on Tuesday. It's a regional bloc that will allow countries in this part of the world to discuss integration and how to best solve the challenges they face. Teresa Bo, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.
So there we have it, right? There we have it, people. Yep, they also want to make a block there in South America. And this is the path that they're making for us. And we decide, right? They work for us. You know, YouTube, it's your tube, right? Freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I thought that was allowed in Western societies. Well, not anymore. Now it's all censorship. And or someone said this. Let's arrest that person. We streven af op een totalitair gegeven, mensen. You are obsolete. Well, maybe. But still I have my voice and I will use it. I will confront the machine that is trying to propagate me and my fellow citizens to think one way, right? And I'm using their channels to inform people. Ja. Dus we kijken ook even, we blikken even terug naar Plato. We're going to watch one of the quotes of Plato. And the highest form of knowledge is empathy. For it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world. Well, I just showed you my world, right? And we're watching. We're watching. And they watch us while we watch them, right? But we have to spring into action just as our forefathers did in 1848. And we have someone who had made the Constitution of the Netherlands, someone called Thorbecke, Johan Rudolf Thorbecke, a politician who said, "You are not an absolute king. You live under the Constitution now." And, you know, these are our forefathers. Johan Rudolf Thorbecke was a Dutch liberal statesman, one of the most important Dutch politicians of the 19th century. Thorbecke is best known for heading the commission that drafted the revision of the Constitution of the Netherlands in 1848. Now, I showed you guys what was happening in the rest of Europe, right? Ja, mensen. We gaan er zo vandoor. It's been a long broadcast, 1.5 hours of pure information, right? And I hope you guys enjoyed that what I had to show. So we'll be back tomorrow, and we will never, ever acquiesce to your demands. You know? So you can put on all the rules and regulations you want, but we will still keep coming back, right? Spreading truth, giving history. So we're going to shut off with Charlie Reach and Ollie the Octopus, of course. They're going to get you.
Okay. Rolling?
Hello, this is Ollie the Octopus.
Hi, here we are outside the US Embassy. I'm about to play my song. It's called They're Going to Get You. We're filming them because they film us. If you don't renew your tax disc, you'll be driving at your own risk. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. They can use their Jedi mind tricks, psychometric biometrics. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. CCTV in your clamshell, turning in the grave of Orwell. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. DNA no longer your own because they've mapped out your genome. What you say when you're on the phone, because they know where you live, them when you're on your own. Daddies, watch your daughters, there's Prozac in the water. They're going to get you, they're going to get you. Don't start a revolution, they'll get you with their air pollution. They're going to get you, they're going to get you. Because we think we are paranoid, their forces are still deployed. They're going to get you, they're going to get you. They get your details in the dope, now they know you. They're going to get you. Careful what you say over here for the last verse.
Nice one.
Good afternoon.
By the way, for the we're from the police entertainment unit, here to make your day a little bit more exciting and good entertaining. Have you not heard of us? Tell a bit more about it.
They'll look you up for them, it's not hard, so look your best on your ID card. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. They can make your life live in hell if you even mention Roswell. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. You can join in if you want. They're going to get you. 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 They're going to get you.
They're going to get you.
Be careful what you say when you're on the phone, because they know where you live when you're on your own. Be careful what you say, be careful when you're on the phone, because they know where you live
Ollie the Octopus, thank you very much for that.
Sorry, just to explain, if I may, you probably don't know about the police entertainment department, but it's a group of us, and what we do various things to kind of cheer up the police and get them a bit more connected to us, the ununiformed. And one of the, I'm actually the head of the police hugging department. Yeah, all right. And
no hugs?
You're not up for a hug?
Hugging makes the world a better place. Can we hug you?
Up for a hug, sir?
Can we please hug you?
No.
But it's only a nice hug.
It's just a hug.
We're all beautiful and unique snowflakes of Mother Nature and all the rest of it. No?
You're right, Charlie. We are beautiful and unique snowflakes of Mother Nature. We are not cannon fodder for the military-industrial complex, right? Oh yeah, I promised you guys to show you that too. We dig into history, so put a cherry on the top, right? We're going to look it up. Wait a sec. There we have it. Eisenhower's farewell address. And these people are the enemy. The military-industrial complex, right? They're to abuse the population of other countries. A farewell address from former President Eisenhower.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
Thank you all for watching.